Welcome to the Hair of the Dog podcast. I'm Nicole Begley, and today's special guest is Haron, joining us all the way from the Netherlands. If you want me to pronounce his last name, you're just going to have to wait until after the intro to hear me attempt, and then he can correct me. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Hair of the Dog podcast. If you're a pet photographer ready to make more money and start living a life by your design, you've come to the right place. And now, your host, pet photographer, travel addict, chocolate martini connoisseur, Nicole Begley.
Hey everybody, Nicole here from the Hair of the Dog podcast. And today I have a special guest all the way from the Netherlands. Now I'm going to introduce him, and I'm probably going to mess up his name because I've been practicing and trying, and I did it well once, but I don't know that I'll be able to do it well again. So I would like to introduce you to Haron Haghius. Oh, I don't know. Haron, go ahead and pronounce your last name appropriately for us, please.
It is pronounced Haghuis.
Haghuis. Oh, almost.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Third million times a charm. Haghuis. All right. I love it. I love it. Excellent. Haron, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Of course. If you guys don't know Haron, you should definitely check him out because his work is absolutely stunning, so beautiful, simply gorgeous. He's also a guest instructor in the Hair of the Dog Academy. So his class, taking one of his edits and creating a moody edit, is one of our most popular guest instructor classes. Everyone loves it. So well done. So it is an honor to have you here today. Tell us, I guess, a little bit. First of all, how long have you been photographing?
Well, I have been photographing for about 5 years now.
Yeah, that's amazing. That seems like it's a drop in the bucket. That's when you started really picking up the camera and learning the camera stuff, but you have a little bit of a background in some other graphic design type stuff, correct?
I do. I've been dabbling in Photoshop since I was about 14 or 15, I think.
Nice.
I did start a couple of uni programs, somewhat in that direction. Can't finish them, but I do have some experience there, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you find the Photoshop part of your work, like, I know some people just love to get in Photoshop and find it super relaxing. Like, do you love that aspect of it?
I'd say not necessarily. I can get lost in my editing sometimes, so I get that some people find it relaxing. I actually find it more of a challenge to get most of my photo done actually in camera.
Nice.
But I'm glad that I do have the option of editing. So yeah. I'm glad that it's there, but ideally I wouldn't need it too much.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think it's a great goal for all of us to get everything as correct as possible right there in camera when we first capture that image, because time is money. And there's definitely, if, you love Photoshop and people enjoy getting lost in there, like, to do that for an image here and there for relaxation, sure thing. But if you're going to do a session and you have 20 images from a client and you're expected to do like heavy Photoshop for all of them, that becomes pretty exhausting. And you have to be really charging a lot more to account for all that extra time that you're sitting in front of the computer, in order to still be as profitable as if you're able to start nailing that a bit in camera. So definitely a good goal.
Yeah. But I think it's to each their own. I know some people absolutely love spending all that time in Photoshop and they make amazing work.
Yeah.
So I guess more power to them.
Yeah. There's certain images. I know sometimes I'll sit down, like if I have a print competition image or just an image that I just want to play with, I find that really relaxing. But I think if I had to sit down and do that for all of the images from my session, I would find that to be a little stressful and overwhelming. But yeah, I mean, everybody has their business set up differently, and that's totally fine. That's the beauty of having all of our own businesses, is we can create whatever we want to create. Just a word of caution, if anyone's doing that much Photoshop, you definitely need to make sure that, if you're running the business, that you're getting paid to do so. If it's a hobby, then you can spend all the time in the world. But yeah, Haron, how did you get started with dogs? Was there something in particular that made you start to love photographing dogs, or, how did that happen?
Well, I've loved dogs all my life, but it was when we had our own dog actually we had the dog first and then the cat came later. So I started bringing the camera on walks, started taking shots of my own dog and posted them online just to see what the response was. And that was quite good. So at that point, I figured I might as well try and photograph other people's dogs. I can create the same type of images with their dog. And that's what I did. I started doing photo shoots with other people, a couple of portfolio shoots at first, and then later on I started charging for them.
Nice. And the rest is history. That's fantastic. So when you started your business, I guess you started doing this, you started having some models, and then you realized, well, maybe I should make this a business. Did you just kind of throw up a website and kind of just do like an all-inclusive digital thing to get started, or what did the business look like in those early days?
Well, it was more or less that. I started doing 10 free portfolio shoots, just to have some material to show.
Yeah.
And after that point, I started charging. It wasn't a lot, but at least I was making some money off of my hobby.
Right. The gear doesn't get any cheaper.
That's right. So, yeah, and that too was great motivation, just to be able to afford new gear at some point off of the shoots that you do.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a great feeling. Yeah.
Nice. And then how long has that been? Was that about 5 years ago that you started doing that?
Yeah, that was about 5 years ago. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, very good. And then you're in the Netherlands, so, it's a smaller country. Are you serving the entire country? Are you serving just your smaller area? Where do most of your clients come from?
They come from all over the Netherlands, actually. I live in the east, and a lot of my clients come from the west or the south. It's a bit of travel time, but the Netherlands isn't that large, so it's doable.
Yeah, nice. Are they mostly coming to you, or are you heading out to them to photograph?
They mostly come to me. I have an area that I love to shoot in, and I know where the light is. I know all the perfect spots for my photos.
Yeah,
so that's where I prefer to shoot. But if they really want to, I'll travel to them.
Nice. Do you have any trouble convincing people to come to you? I know sometimes it's better now, but at least, earlier in my pet photography journey, when I think we all kind of start off being a little bit nervous to direct our clients and to really, we want to please them and we want to do what they want to do and we want to make them happy. So they'll be like, oh, okay, I just want to do the shoot in my backyard. So you're like, oh, okay. But then you get there and they have like a little yard with just a fence and the light is horrific. And, there's just really challenging to make any sort of beautiful image in their backyard. So I only did that a couple of times. And then I started to learn, all right, I need to get a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Just convincing them that I need to stand up for myself, really, and just say, hey, if you want the images that you see on my website, we need to go here or there, or, have these different locations.
Oh, yeah.
We can't do it in your backyard. I do sometimes Google, though. I Google Maps their yard and see if they have like a whole bunch of beautiful property. And then I'll be like, okay, yes, we can do it at your house, but not your house. So I think that's a hard lesson for a lot of us to learn when we're starting to photograph dogs. And even especially when we're model calling or we're just starting to make money, because you feel like, oh, I can't possibly tell these people what to do.
Right.
So it's a little bit nerve-wracking. So if you had trouble convincing people, long story short, to travel to you to your special places, or are they usually pretty open to that?
Well, I think the first thing that helps is charging a significant amount of travel costs.
Yes.
That's usually quite convincing. And I do that on purpose because eventually it's in their best interest as well to be in an area that I know I can take great pictures in.
Yeah.
I can't say I've ever really had that many issues with location in that regard, but it is a bit of a learning curve. You have to, I think it's not just location, is the entire shoot in general. Learning to take charge because you know how to get those photos and your client doesn't.
Right.
But it can be scary at first. I get that. I've had clients that seem to think we were going on a walk and I just snapped some pictures in between. And that's just not how I work. So I'll tell them, no, we're going to visit a few spots. We're going to be spending about, 20 minutes there. And you're going to hear me click a lot. And that's just to make sure that we have those great images.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of education on our part, I guess. Yeah.
100%. I feel like that's a really important piece of the puzzle, is being able to educate our clients about that. And, so they know what to expect. I know one thing that I always educate my clients on is the dog's behavior for the shoot, because, their clients come and they're all nervous about my dog's not going to behave. Yep. And they have this whole stress in them about, investing in this shoot. And if the dog doesn't behave, we're not going to get good pictures. And, they get all in their head. So I like to tell them, really at every possible opportunity, from the consultation on the phone to when we start shooting at the session, and then continue as we continue shooting the session, hey, just let your dog relax. Your dog's doing great. If I'm setting the dog up for, I see where I want to shoot and I have the scene and I want the dog about right here, I'll let them know, hey, have the dog stand right here. It's okay if they sit or stand. Because sometimes I really don't care if the dog's sitting or standing. I just want the dog there, and however the dog's going to be comfortably standing or sitting, comfortably being there is fine. So, I just let them know. Or if they were sitting and they stand up, I just say, it's okay. He can stand. Because otherwise they're just sitting there and then they're like, sit. And then the dog's like, wait, what are you saying? Oh, wait, but she's trying to get my attention over here. And it becomes really stressful.
I think after about 20 times, they grow a middle finger.
Yeah, exactly. Like, enough of you.
Yeah.
And, and I think our clients appreciate having a little bit direction because they've never been on a photo shoot before. They have no idea how this process works.
Exactly.
And if we're photographing them with their dog, a lot of times I know so many pet photographers say, oh man, I hate being on this side of the camera if they're being photographed, which we need to remember when we're photographing our clients with their dogs and how much better, you can feel if you have somebody telling you, okay, sit like this. Oh, you're doing great. Okay, now do this. Yep. And, just a little bit of direction goes a long way. Yeah, for sure.
I'll be honest, I'm not the most talkative person on a shoot.
Yeah.
Because for me, that'd be forced. But I do tell them, look, as long as I don't give you any directions, you're doing fine. So if you do have to do something, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Going back a second too, I really love how you charge more for your travel sessions because, the beauty of having our own businesses is that we get to decide where we want to shoot, when we want to shoot, like what basically box we want to play in our business.
Right.
And I am a firm believer in that we should never really say no to our clients, but it's completely okay and actually encouraged that saying yes comes with a cost. So, hey, can you come photograph me 3 hours away? Sure. It'll be an extra, $500, whatever number that is.
Yep.
So I think that's a great way to do that for people that maybe don't want to photograph on weekends or don't want to do their smaller sessions on the weekends or, whatever it is, we get to make the rules. So you can definitely train potential clients through price and encourage people to do what you want them to do by pricing things a certain way. So, yeah. Speaking of pricing and things like that, you started off doing, the all-inclusive digital kind of thing with your business. Is that something that you're still doing, or are you moving more towards products? What's your main products now?
Right now, I'm still doing digitals. That's because of the market in the Netherlands, because people are more or less used to it. But I do want to make the switch to just selling products and maybe sell digitals, but at a larger price. I started doing digitals, of course, but at that point, people would receive a lot more images than they do now.
Yep.
Right now, I guess my cheapest package would be 3 files.
Okay.
I no longer focus on quantity. I just want the best 3 images, and that's what they get. I do want to switch to selling products.
Yeah. Do they get to choose their 3 files? Like, you sending them galleries, or are you doing in person?
A gallery of 5 to choose from. So they get options, but the way I see it is clients choose me for a reason.
Yeah.
They've seen my portfolio. Apparently they appreciate the images. So if they want those images, then it's probably in their best interest to leave the largest part of the selection up to me. I do think that as soon as you show a client their own dog, they tend to view it very differently from images that are not their own dog. So they tend to ignore a large part of the image and just focus on the dog's expression, which is very important, of course. But you can't expect a client to rate their images technically.
Yes, that goes to, I think all of us has had the situation where we go over our images with a client and you're so excited for like these 2 or 3 images from the session. You're like, man, they're definitely going to take these and put them really big on the wall because they are awesome. And then they choose something else and you're like, well, wait, no, not that one. This one. So my new rule that I learned a few years ago about calling my images after a session is that if I'm not okay with that image going really big on a wall, it doesn't get shown. because they will choose that one.
They will.
Every time. So did they have to choose then their package before they book your session? Like if they wanted the 3 files and you're only showing them 5 versus, one where they're getting more selection or more files?
Well, it's still very flexible. The thing is, if they choose the cheapest package, they might get a somewhat shorter photo shoot.
Yep.
So if you choose a larger package up front, you're guaranteed that we're taking more time for the photo shoot.
Yeah.
Maybe get some more locations so that I can actually guarantee the variety in them.
Yep.
But they still have the option to upgrade after the fact. And that happens a lot still. And I think that's also because I do give them 5 images to choose from.
Yeah, right.
And often you'll see that people will want a 4th or 5th image or even ask for more images, which I can provide. But again, that's at extra cost.
Yeah, nice. Full disclosure, we had started to have this conversation before, and I realized that I had forgot to hit the record button. So we're rehashing this again, but before we were talking a little bit about the fact that in all of our markets, whether you guys are in big cities, smaller areas, even more rural areas, you might just have to cover a larger piece of land. There are always people that value service. There are always people that value not a better experience, a more high-end experience where everything is getting done for them. So they don't have to do anything DIY, that you are providing them with, beautiful final products. So yeah, I feel like that is available just about anywhere. And a great way to do that is you can even test it too, where you have, the digital packages, and then you start putting in a package that has certain size wall piece, like a 16 by 20 wall piece, and it includes the digitals too. And then it becomes just like a no-brainer where they're like, oh, well, I can have all of these over here. And then you can just raise the digitals only. So if they do choose those, you're like, oh, okay, whatever. I've been paid enough for that. That's fine. It doesn't hurt my heart as much. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people get in their own head because no matter where you are, there's always going to be people charging less than we are. It's just absolutely impossible to compete in this industry on price. I actually just did a podcast episode. It was, I'm not sure what number it was, but it was one of the ones right before this one airs. So one of the most recent podcast episodes about pricing and the fact I was on Facebook a week or 2 ago, and there's an ad for this company that is offering free mini shoots, and it's like headshots or families or newborns or pets or whatever, any kind of genre you can think of. Free mini photo shoot, and the files are $15 each. I was like, good Lord, no way that no one can compete on price because you're not getting any less expensive than that. But, you have that particular service is looking for the people that don't want a luxury service. They are looking for basically fast and cheap. They don't necessarily care about the quality of it because they're not able to choose their photographer. They're not able to look at their works. It's a whole different animal. So I think we get in our head thinking that, we need to compete with that. But in actuality, we're in a whole different, it's apples and oranges. We're not competing with that at all. What we offer is completely different. It's like Ruth's Chris Steakhouse versus McDonald's. Like they can both exist in the marketplace. They just have very different target markets and a very different experience. So we need to decide who we want to serve in that marketplace and just work all of our messaging and our products and our education and, all of our conversation on social media around how we want to run our business and serve our potential clients. Yeah,
I agree. Also, I think that those cheaper photographers, like you said, they're in such a different market. I just they're not your competition as far as I'm concerned. At some point, I decided not to worry about prices of other photographers anymore. I've noticed that the cheaper you are, in general, the clients don't really get better.
Right.
The cheaper you are as a photographer, it seems like more demands and complaints clients seem to have.
Yes, I've found the same.
Yeah. Well, I've been happy to have moved away from that.
Yeah, because when you start to raise your prices, you're attracting the people that are hiring you because they value what you offer.
Exactly.
So then they are, they are deferring to the professional. Yeah. For instance, just yesterday, I got my first post-COVID haircut in color. It's been many, many months. The grays were taking over. And I went in and I sat down and, I trust my hairdresser. She's been doing my hair since I moved here. Right. And she's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. What do you think I should do? And I told her that I was liking the length and I liked how it was styled, like, what it was doing. So, I like kind of that cut and, and then even with the color, she's like, do you want it this light? Do you want it darker? I'm like, I don't know. What do you recommend? You're the professional, so when you value the relationship you have with somebody or you value the services that they're offering, you actually seek their advice. If I was going to a $10 haircut place,
I'd be worried.
I can guarantee you I want to say, okay, whatever you want to do. I'd come in with Pinterest pictures and magazine cutouts. And I feel like the same thing happens in the photography industry when you have the more inexpensive offerings and you have these clients that aren't paying as much, they're the ones that come to you with like this Pinterest board of some black and white and some selective color and some really dreamy edits and some like high definition, like HDR type stuff. And I'm like, we want all of these. They're like, well, that's like 5 different photographers. And I'm also a huge believer in dialing in your style a bit and curating the look that you show. Doesn't mean you can't shoot something outside of that look, but really making sure that the work that you're showing to the public looks like it came from the same person so that when potential clients are looking at your body of work, they know what they're going to expect. With your body of work is very, your work is very curated and beautiful and very, it all complementary. It all goes together very well. You could tell it's the same artist. How long did that take? Was that kind of a process when you were starting out to try to figure out what it is you liked and what you wanted your style to be?
Yeah, I think we all start out just experimenting, trying all sorts of things. And I guess this is just a process. This kind of grew on me. At some point, I was doing certain edits that I personally liked. So I kept doing those, but I never really got hung up on developing a personal style. I do think that producing consistent quality is very important, but I think as long as you keep doing what you like, what you love to do, that style will come. It's not something that should be forced, I think. But and at this point, it's just trying to get my images up to a level that I'm comfortable with, that I want to produce. But it's never really been in a way that I want to force a certain style upon my images.
Yeah, no, and I feel like that style is something that will always evolve. Yep. As we become attracted to new things and learn new things and just, push ourselves to take our art and our craft a little bit further. So it's definitely something that evolves, and it's definitely something that takes time. I would say I don't think I actually had an idea of what my quote style was till probably 7 years into my business when I really started to really hone in on oh wait, I'm starting to see the pattern of what I really love in my work, and I'm starting to be able to have this collection of work that looks different than others and all very cohesive together, and it just takes time, and it just takes experimenting and continuing to learn that and learning different techniques without just copying somebody else and saying, oh, I think my style should be just like Haron's. I'm going to learn how he did it and do it just like that. No. Learn how he did it to take bits and pieces of that and to combine it with everything else that makes your work stand out to be your own. Exactly. 100%. And I think the other challenging part too is that as humans, we try to compare our work to everybody else's. So we're comparing our work on, year 2 of our journey to somebody else's work on year 8 of their journey. And nothing good comes from the comparison. The only comparison that we should be doing is looking at our work now versus looking at our work last year and comparing ourselves to where we were, not comparing ourselves to where other people are, because that's just ripe to get in your head and get a little down on yourself.
That's just flat out demotivating.
Yes.
Yeah. And what I always tell people as well is that you don't get to see the images that went into the bin.
Right.
You just see their best work. And it seems like sometimes photographers are relieved when I tell them that, well, I take crappy shots as well. Yeah. I'm just a bit faster in deleting them now.
Yes.
So definitely just make the comparison with yourself. And even then, don't compare shoot to shoot. I say that, but I still tend to do that. But it's just not a realistic goal, I think, because you'll have situations that just don't allow for the same quality as the shoot before. If you see progress over a longer span of time, then you're growing. If you end up disliking the work that you did last year, that's when you're growing, I think. I'm not saying you should hate your work, but I've heard people complain about the work they previously did, and I just tell them that's a good thing. You're growing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. I look back on some of my first clients and I want to be like, can I give you a free shoot to reshoot? Because my God, that was terrible. Yeah. I almost feel bad, but all part of the process. Yeah, that's all great advice. What other advice do you have for people that are maybe, just starting out? They're trying to learn these different things. They're trying to, a lot of us are self-taught. I know I was self-taught. I never went to school for anything photography related. So it becomes pretty overwhelming sometimes trying to figure out, gosh, what do I need to know? Where do I learn it? What do I not know that I should know? And, finding people to help. But if you were to look back and give yourself advice, you're just starting out, what advice would you give them?
I would say never forget the basics. And I still catch myself doing that from time to time. Because you're at a point where you know the basics, where you think, okay, let's go for a bit more of a complex image. And I do that at times where I find this really nice location, but I end up just taking pictures that aren't that great. And it's usually because I'm trying to make it too complex. Whereas I think that really sometimes you just have to go back to the basics and focus on quality. So look at your lighting, look at your composition, look at things like posing a dog. Is it stressed or not? All of those things. They're just things that can't always be fixed through editing. And I get a lot of requests from people that want to learn editing. And in a lot of cases, I have to convince them that maybe we should look at the way you shoot first. Sometimes it's just good to go back to the basics and see what might be gained there.
Yeah, that's great advice, because I see that a lot too, where someone will post, oh, help me fix this image. But the way it was shot, the lighting is so not ideal that you just can't change certain things. Like editing, the goal of editing is to take what we've created and polish it and make it, even better. Yep. And editing often cannot fix poorly shot images. Yep. So that back to basics is so critical, that we need to have that good foundation of camera settings to, make sure that your shutter speed's fast enough, that you have a sharp image, that you have properly exposed images, that there's decent lighting on the dog. You're not blowing out highlights or clipping all your blacks, and like you said too, knowing that dog's body language, and is that dog stressed, and what's the expression of the dog? Yep. So many things we need to remember, which is where that practice definitely comes in. We were talking about this on round 1 that I forgot to record about the learning our basics of. I remember when I was learning how to shoot manual, and it seemed so overwhelming at first, where it was like, oh my gosh, wait, it's too dark. So I need to up my ISO, but I can't up my ISO too much. But if I open up my aperture, then my depth of field maybe is too shallow. And oh my gosh, what should I do? So many things to move. And then you keep practicing, and pretty quickly, all of a sudden you're like, oh, it just snaps. And you're like, I've got this. And then it becomes second nature. And it's so much second nature with me and my camera now that when somebody asks me if I'm teaching and they're like, okay, which one should I use for back button focus, or which button does this or that? And I'm like, hold on, let me hold your camera. Because I honestly don't know which button I'm pressing. I need to hold my camera and be like, oh, it's this one. Yep. Because I don't look at it. It's all just muscle memory from the practice. And just learning those basics and being able to compose or create a technically correct starting piece of work is going to be able to get you so much further, because then you can start to learn these different editing techniques and, getting real creative with it. But if those basics aren't there, it's going to be really, really hard. So back to basics is always a good foundation. I love that.
That's exactly that. You want to be enhancing your image and not fixing all the issues that you could have fixed on location.
Yeah. And again, time. Remember, we want to get it right in camera. So, if you pull it in correct, you don't have to spend the first 20 minutes of your editing trying to fix something that could have just been fixed by changing one setting on your camera. Yeah. Awesome. Haron, thank you so much for this awesome podcast. Conversation number 2 was even better than conversation 1, guys. So don't worry, you didn't miss anything. It was great. I really appreciate you taking the time. If people want to find you, let us know where where they can find you in the interwebs.
On the interwebs. Well, I'm actually still working on a proper English website. My current one's still in Dutch, so that might be a bit hard.
That's okay. Everyone just wants to see the pretty pictures.
It's just my name, so I'll pronounce the last name again. So it's Haron Haghuis, so that's Haghus, and that's .com. But that's still work in progress. But they can also find me on Facebook, which is usually where I post most of my images.
Nice. Are you active on Instagram as well?
Not as active as I should be, but
yeah, it's okay. That's always been my answer for many years. Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. We'll have people find you. And if you guys have enjoyed this interview, definitely reach out and let Haron know. Thank you so much that you enjoyed this.
Thank you.
And he is a guest instructor in the Academy, which you can find his course there. And his course is also available to be purchased on its own if you don't want the rest of the Academy content. But of course you do. There's so much good stuff in there. But anyway, Haron, thank you so much again. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, pet photographers, are you struggling to bring your vision to life? Do you long for creating a style that is true to you? Are you ready to leave the fads and trends behind and learn how to create a style that is uniquely yours so that your work can stand apart? Here at Hair of the Dog, we are hosting a free 5-day Unleash Your Style Challenge to help you do just that. Registration's open now, so go to www.hairofthedogacademy.com/unleash to save your seat. We can't wait to see what you create.